that James Guy, and today we're gonna try and put the engine in this. My 2015 Ford Fiesta that has a 1 liter, had a 1 liter turbocharged EcoBoost 3-cylinder engine that exploded. I bought this car for $900, got a used engine, found out it was a piece of junk as well, and I had to do some refurbishing, I guess you could say. But anyways, we're gonna try and put the engine back in, try and get this thing to actually go, run. I'm sick of this project. I'm a little bit in over my head, maybe not over my head, but this is getting annoying. I need to get rid of this car, or at least start driving it, making it useful instead of just taking up a spot in my garage. Let's get going. So I got the charge air cooler out, and the reason is because the old turbo exploded, and it's all full of oil there. But what I do also see is on the outlet of the charge air cooler, there's a whole bunch of metal bits, like metal filings. You can kind of see the sparklies in there. I'm gonna go ahead and flush this out with solvent or something, maybe a steam cleaner, before I go ahead and put this whole thing back together. And back in with the charge air cooler. Now is the super ultra sketchy part. We got to get this engine underneath the front of this car. So yeah, this is sketchy. I've got a floor jack with a whole bunch of blocks of wood on top of it, between it and the bottom of the car. We're going to lift the car up, and we didn't die taking it out, so hopefully we don't die putting it back in. So here we go. Oh, that's sketchy. You gotta see this. Whatever you do, don't go underneath the car. That's my jack scenario. Underneath the car. Well, that can't be good. What was that noise? Oh, it's just my jack shifting. View from the top, car's still up in the air, but what I have to do is I have to jiggle this AC pump, the AC compressor, which is still hooked up to its line, so I didn't have to evacuate anything. It kind of needs to jiggle and sneak around, so we'll slowly jiggle this thing down so that the car is back onto the jack stands with the engine down there, and then we can use our fancy crane and lift the engine up into place and bolt it up to the mounts. Okay, cutting the zip tie that held my AC compressor in place. Now we can jiggle around. That's what your foot is for. No longer in a danger zone. Well, that went smoother than I thought, folks. All weight is off my jack. We're once again safe. Don't scratch the paint. Okay, this engine crane is a little awkward with one of the feet is up against the transmission, so I can't get that way far enough, but we'll just go slow and we'll see what happens here when I go to lift stuff. Okay. Just go slow. The AC pump here is kind of in an awkward spot. So once my engine comes up into here, I'm gonna have to jiggle that around. There's a little electric coolant pump feeds coolant to the turbocharger, presumably when you shut it off. Stuff hanging up everywhere. Once this transmission is up high enough, I think then we can jiggle this whole thing over with, yeah, that'll work. So the car's exhaust pipe is kind of hanging up on stuff back here. Whoever thought this would be a good idea? Okay, I got this extra strap here now. It's actually pulling the front of the engine up. It was kind of leaning forward and I couldn't clear the stuff like over in this end by the radiator. So I'm kind of jiggling and wiggling and lifting inch by inch. Kind of like pushing, kicking. And now I'm kind of in a good spot here where I'm almost, the transmission is over the leg of the crane, so I can kind of now sort of position this thing the way I want it. It is still awkward, but such is life. What I'm going to do, I'm going to try something. I'm going to lower this. Wow! Not that fast. Got a bit of an issue where if you look down there, I'll zoom in, you can see where the corner of the transmission is touching the subframe, and as I lift it, it wants to go this way and make the engine all crooked. But I think if now that I've lowered it back down a little bit, I could probably get past that. Like that. Oh, I think that's good. I think we just did good. Oh yeah, we did good. That was what we needed. Oh, something popped. Okay, I've been fighting to get this AC compressor from up here to down there for a long time. More straps, getting the engine angled correctly. Finally, I pulled out the charge air cooler because it's easy to pull out, and that's given me a little more room. And then, as you can see, now this AC pump is where it's supposed to be at the bottom of the engine. I figured I'd just show you the ending because, yeah. Anyway, let's pop this back in, charge cooler, for the second time in this video, of course. And now the bottom motor mount. As you can see, the engine is still loose. Oh yeah, that's right. There, the engine's in. Okay, I've been hooking everything up on the bottom of the engine. You can see from the top, this harness here runs kind of to the front and is now hooked up to the alternator there. I had the alternator out because it would have been in the way when I lowered the engine, and the AC compressor was kind of left behind, so it would have been in the way, so I had to take it out. But yeah, pretty much everything on the bottom of the engine is done. I'll show you from the bottom. You can see there's the AC compressor bolted up, alternator, the serpentine belt. I think that's how it goes. Sure. Anyway, everything's kind of on here. Here's our exhaust, hooked up to the car's exhaust. Yeah. I mean, just kind of like charge pipe. Not very many things from this side. And now we'll start on the top. A little bit of a snag. I notice now that I'm starting to hook things up that I broke this little, there's supposed to be a fitting right there. Yeah, it completely broke off. It's kind of at the rear right corner at the top of the engine, so it must have just whacked something as I was wiggling stuff around. That hooks up to this. So luckily, the one from my spare engine should work. So this piece right here, I'll just kind of, there it is, there's that fitting hanging off the side. That, yeah, I'll be able to just transfer this over. Literally didn't even waste more than 5 minutes of my time. But anyway, first major snag. Well, first bit of a snag, I should say. Next, we're going to bleed the clutch, and how that works, how the clutch on this thing works is we have the brake fluid here, and the clutch actually steals under here. The clutch master cylinder actually steals clutch fluid from here and goes into the master, and then it comes into this line right here. I'll zoom in a bit and show you that. You can see here the line comes in right here, goes into the clutch. You know, there's a cylinder down there, an actuator that pushes the release bearing in, and then right beside it here is the bleed. So there's actually, you pull this little cap off, there you go. There's the bleed. If you turn this right here, you just need to turn this thing counterclockwise a quarter turn, and you can bleed it out. I think I might be able to gravity bleed this thing without actually pumping anything or doing anything. We're going to see how that works now. I'm going to top up this container, or we're going to top up the reservoir here with some fresh .4. It was actually quite low. You can hear it bubbling away. Some of this might have leaked out when we had this transmission out. So we're going to go over full on that, above the max line. And then we're going to go ahead and open up this bleed and see if fluid comes out. It should just, this reservoir is higher than that way down there. So technically should be able to just gravity bleed this and just kind of let it sit and do its thing. Let's see, I guess. Okay, well, let's see what happens here. Probably get like brake fluid everywhere. I see little bubbles coming out. I think that's a really good sign. Okay, we're gonna leave this for a while. Come back in like, I don't know, 10-15 minutes, and we'll see if it's a constant drip coming out of there from the reservoir. Just so you know, what Ford wants you to do is they want you to actually bleed it backwards. They have a special tool that you fill up with brake fluid, and it actually pressurizes it and pushes it in the other way, and you drain the reservoir down and you fill the reservoir with that. But look at it, it's a constant drip coming out of there. We didn't even need 10 minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this kind of do its thing until the level in the brake fluid reservoir is down to the max line. Meaning it's pushed a whole bunch of fluid in, and we're gonna close this up, maybe give it a pump with the clutch pedal just to kind of make sure. Then we'll see how the clutch feels. Okay, that's been dripping for probably 15 or 20 minutes. So what I'm gonna do is just make sure the clutch feels okay, and then I'm gonna put the axles in and get the front wheels on, and the transmission and the shift cables, just so I can put it in gear, make sure the clutch releases nicely, doesn't drag or anything like that. Okay, I've got the axles back in. I bled the clutch a whole bunch more with a helper, pushed the pedal down, released the bleeder, closed the bleeder, released the pedal, and over again. And now the pedal's being pushed down by my helper, and look, you can actually like grab a wheel and spin it in gear. So the clutch is releasing. That is good news. And we can carry on. Okay, so we've had a bit of a coolant leak here. It was dripping underneath the car, and I've had to take it apart. Had to take it apart again, and you can see I've got the thermostat housing off of the side of the cylinder head. I don't know. I put a new gasket in here. I think I put a new gasket in it. It's been too long, but if you kind of look here, you can kind of see in this area. You can see. If you look really carefully. You can see that dip in the gasket, like right here. It's like it's squished funny. So I'm gonna pull the thermostat housing off the other cylinder head and see what that gasket looks like. I might just use that one. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, I got that back together. I found the gasket in the other thermostat housing. It looked like an aftermarket gasket. It was still pretty soft, but it had silicone all over it. Someone had done the thermostat on it. It didn't look too bad. I cleaned it up a bit, the rubber gasket, and put a goopy amount of silicone all over it. And so I'm gonna let that set probably, I don't know, I'll probably have to carry on with this tomorrow. I'm gonna fill it up with coolant before I put anything else back together. You can see I got the ECU still all connected, and we'll get the coolant in and make sure it doesn't leak, and then we'll get on to starting this thing. Well folks, I think this is the moment we've all been waiting for. Sorry, the neighbor's raking his leaves over there, so it's a bit noisy, but I don't have a battery yet. This thing didn't have a battery when I bought it, but I do have my trusty jumper pack, which is, we'll be running off of that for a bit. Top up the coolant, and I'm going to jump in and prime this thing, prime the fuel pump, and we'll see what happens here. Okay, that was just a bunch of clicking. I didn't have a battery in it. I was just going off my booster pack. Look at this, genuine Ford battery, charged right up now. We're gonna go ahead and try this again. Okay, more clicks. Brand new battery, still won't turn over. I went under the car, rotated the engine by hand, it turns over, and the starter was nice and toasty warm. So I went and I pulled it out. Toasty warm means it is getting power. It's being energized. But look it, I failed to notice on this starter that it has a giant dent in the side of it, right there. That is where one of the holes in the original engine probably lined up with. So when the connecting rod flew out of this engine, it whacked the starter. Okay, so I took this starter apart. It actually came apart really easy, just a couple long screws, and pulled the armature out. And if you look in there, you can see kind of opposite of where the dent is down this side, that main magnet has it's like all busted up into pieces. Okay, new starter is in. There's another $160 down the drain. Had to go to Ford, buy a new one, put it in. Let's go ahead and see if this thing starts now. It runs! And it seems to run well. Woo! Okay, Maiden Voyage in the Fiesta. Let's do this. Oh boy, so far so good. Takes a bit of getting used to. Oh, the brakes are real rusty. To run okay. I'm not gonna go far. Don't have a plate on it. But you know, it works. Okay, well the car runs. I think the next thing I gotta do is get some insurance on it, start driving it to work, see what happens. So until next time, if you found this mildly entertaining or helpful, please like the video, hit the subscribe button, follow me on Instagram, __James__guy, and I will see you next time. Okay.
I'll put it on your tab
Yeah, I have a tab.
for my time.
This is all on film, you know.
What?
Nothing.